An English writer and editor from Scotland told Xinhua in a recent interview that Western media have kept spreading disinformation on China as a conscious strategy to undermine China's rise, and to develop negative feelings of hostility among a huge audience who know nothing about China.
I think too many members of the Western media come to China with no intention of providing a balanced picture. They come here with an objective of painting the most negative possible light. I think that the problem with Western media reporting in China dates back to approximately the time that I came to China. Prior to that, people were conscious of the fact that since reform and opening up began in 1978, China had made great progress and great strides forward and had achieved enormous expansion, for example, in their economy. But China didn't look like a threat. But I think it was at that point that Western strategists started to realize that China wasn't going to stop, that China planned to continue to develop. And that's when they became conscious of the fact that ultimately China was going to overtake them in economic terms. Americans don't cope very well with the idea of not being number one anymore. And they've developed this belief that they have a right to be number one. The Western media spread disinformation about China because they're told to do it. They're told to do it by the people who run the show. And the people who run the show do not want to and cannot cope with the thought that China is a competitor. And they can only see it in their own terms. And in their own terms, competition is always a bad thing. They're not interested in anybody who has anything positive to say about China, quite literally. As each day passes and as you review Western media coverage of China, you see less and less signs of anything positive at all, and more signs of hostility. In the West, the mainstream media control the megaphone. And when you control the megaphone, you control the message. And from my perspective, it's part of a conscious strategy to undermine China's rise, to develop negative feelings of hostility among a huge audience who know nothing about China other than what they're told by the politicians and the media. But to sum up, from my perspective, it's part of a deliberate strategy, and China needs to work out a strategy to counter it.